We are often steeped in a cultural narrative that paints unconditional helpfulness as the ultimate moral good. From our earliest years, the teaching is pervasive: to embody the qualities of a good person, a spiritual individual, or a truly loving human being, one must adopt a stance of perpetual availability. The expected response is an immediate, unqualified yes. One must always give, always be present, and always be ready to assist. This doctrine carries a severe social penalty for deviation. If you express hesitation, if you pause to consider your own capacity, or if you even dare to establish a personal boundary, the immediate cultural judgment is that something must be fundamentally wrong with you. You are labeled as selfish, unkind, or perhaps even spiritually deficient. This creates an immense, often unconscious, pressure to perform perpetual self-sacrifice. Reversing the paradigm: is compulsive helping actually love? But what if this entire framework, this ingrained belief that our highest purpose is the compulsive rescue of others, is actually backwards? What if the relentless urge to fix every problem, save every person, and intervene in every crisis is not, in fact, love, but a subtle form of interference? This compulsion can become a mechanism that actively disrupts the essential learning process that life is designed to facilitate. Consider the act of continuous rescue. When you habitually step in to shield someone from the natural, inevitable consequences of their own decisions or actions, what is the true outcome? You are not nurturing growth, you are inadvertently perpetuating stagnation. You are effectively standing in the way of the very friction, the necessary resistance, that forges wisdom through lived experience. You deny them the chance to build the muscle of self-reliance. The nuance of care, beyond indifference. This realization does not demand a descent into coldness or apathy, that would merely be swinging to the opposite, equally unproductive extreme. The core issue is not whether we should care; caring is innate to the human condition. The vital distinction lies in how we choose to express that care, and more critically, where we strategically allocate our finite resources of energy and time. Because, as experience shows, there exist certain energetic profiles, certain individuals, who possess an almost infinite capacity to drain the resources of others. They operate from a place of constant taking, and the volume of giving rarely, if ever, registers as enough. The profound tragedy here is twofold: it's not just their taking, but the fact that your ongoing support is shielding them from the necessity of internal growth that only genuine need can provoke. To navigate this, it is crucial to learn to recognize 7 archetypes. This recognition is not about condemnation or judgment, it is a necessary act of energetic self-preservation and an allowance for others to encounter the necessary experiences for their own awakening. 7 types to recognize: boundaries as wisdom. 1. The chronically lazy, the hammock seeker. There exists a significant distinction between an individual who is genuinely struggling and one who has simply resigned themselves to inactivity. The struggling person, when offered a hand, will typically use that support as a springboard, a foundation to launch themselves forward. The chronically lazy individual, however, often converts your assistance into a hammock. Whether consciously or unconsciously, they have made a foundational decision that life's efforts are too burdensome, and thus, someone else should bear the load. By intervening, you volunteer to become that someone else. This dependency is not born of inability, but from the discovery that external support is a reliable alternative to personal effort. Nature offers a clear parallel: a bird will not feed a fledgling that refuses to open its beak. A branch that yields no fruit is eventually pruned. The chronically lazy person presents a constant stream of justifications: past hardships, bad luck, systemic unfairness. While some of this context may be true, the critical question is, what tangible action are they taking right now to alter their trajectory? Are they waiting for a savior, or taking incremental steps? When you sustain someone who refuses to take the first step themselves, you steal their sense of earned accomplishment and the intrinsic strength derived from conquering difficulty. You withhold the realization that they are capable. Many are trapped carrying others' financial burdens or cleaning up endless messes, labeling it kindness when it may be prolonged enablement. Your help might be the very force keeping their feet from touching the ground. They need the discomfort, they need the hunger of natural consequences to push them past the inertia of the status quo. 2. The perpetually ungrateful, the bottomless pit. Observe those who can receive a profound gift, be it your time, financial aid, or emotional outpouring, and treat it with utter indifference. There is no sincere acknowledgement, no expressed appreciation. This is not a lapse in etiquette, it is a character signature. Gratitude is more than good manners, it is the recognition that one is part of a larger system, an understanding that blessings are given, not owed. The ungrateful person operates from an entitlement mindset, they view your assistance as their due. The paradox is cruel, the more you pour into them, the deeper their sense of entitlement grows, and the less they value the source. I recall a story of someone subsidizing a friend's rent for 6 months, the recipient's only feedback was complaints about the apartment size and neighborhood. Not gratitude for the sacrifice. When the aid stopped, the recipient felt betrayed, as if a debt was unfairly called in. For this person, kindness is mistaken for weakness, and generosity is seen merely as an unlocked opportunity. You are not sowing seeds with them, you are feeding a vacuum that can never be satisfied. 3. The arrogant and self-righteous, the fortress of pride. Some people do not genuinely seek your help or wisdom, they seek validation. They do not want a challenge to their worldview, they want you to become an echo chamber that confirms their existing beliefs. If you offer a viewpoint that contradicts their self-image, they will summarily reject you. Arrogance is not confidence, it is a brittle mask over profound fear. The fear is the terror of being wrong, as their entire identity is constructed on the belief that they already possess the correct answers. Admitting a need for help would cause their constructed identity to crumble. Therefore, they double down, defend, and reject. You cannot help someone who is fundamentally committed to their own perceived infallibility because they do not believe they require assistance. Until they experience a fall significant enough to humble them, until their pride is cracked by reality, any offered wisdom is simply deflected. Even great spiritual teachers understood this, you cannot force revelation upon someone committed to their own blindness. 4. The habitually wicked, the accomplice trap. We live in an age where terms like wicked or evil are avoided in favor of softer labels like troubled or misunderstood. However, some individuals are not confused, they are willfully malicious. They know the difference between right and wrong and deliberately choose the latter, operating without remorse, lying, cheating, and manipulating as a lifestyle. When you offer help to this person, be it money, shelter, or a clean slate, you are not providing a lifeline, you are becoming an accomplice. You are funding the continuation of their harmful patterns. Wisdom traditions across history warn against supporting those dedicated to wrongdoing because they will use your resources not for reform, but to advance deeper into destructive behavior. They do not want salvation, they want empowerment for their schemes. Stepping into that role means partnering with the very forces that cause harm. 5. The incurably foolish, the repeated crisis cycle. A fool is not defined by a lack of intellect, but by a refusal to learn. They interact with reality like someone touching a hot stove repeatedly, only to wonder why they are burned. The wise person learns from experience, the fool repeats the error. The difficulty here is that the fool frequently approaches you in a state of genuine crisis and desperation, triggering your natural inclination to rescue. Yet, a review of their history reveals this is not a novel event, it is the nth crisis, each one typically solved by an outside intervention, leading them right back to the identical, self-sabotaging behavior. You cannot throw a life preserver to someone who insists on thrashing and pulling you under with them. Only the unfiltered consequences of their actions can break through their learned stubbornness. Your intervention only delays the necessary lesson. 6. The master manipulator, the emotional weapon. The manipulator is often the most insidious on this list because they seldom demand, they expertly engineer situations to make you want to give. They understand the psychology of good people, the desire to help and the deep-seated guilt associated with saying no. They are shapeshifters, offering a performance tailored to their audience, the victim to one, the valiant survivor to another. Their stories rarely align upon cross-reference. When you help them, you are not addressing a need, you are feeding an operational system designed to secure resources through emotional leverage. The moment you see through the performance and withdraw support, their facade shatters, and they will swiftly pivot to paint you as the villain before moving to their next source of supply. 7. The unrepentant rebel, the choice of defiance. This is the person who knows better but chooses not to do better. They have received warnings, counsel, and clear instruction, but they are fundamentally defiant. They understand the right path but prefer the destructive one. They will placate you with agreement when confronted, only to revert the moment your attention shifts. Letting go of this type is agonizing because you can clearly see the untapped potential they possess. You cling to the hope that this time the change will stick. However, genuine change cannot be imposed, the desire for healing must originate internally. You cannot hold a greater desire for their freedom than they hold for themselves. To try is to exhaust your vital energy while they remain static. Conclusion: the wisdom of discernment. What is the ultimate path forward? We must reject the false dichotomy between helping and detachment. The answer is discernment. We must cultivate the ability to differentiate between a person who is momentarily struggling and one who is fundamentally stuck. We must learn to see the difference between a genuine request for a hand up and an attempt to secure a free ride. True compassion is not enabling. It sometimes requires the difficult, loving act of stepping back, allowing another person to feel the full weight of their choices. This friction, this hardship, is often the very catalyst that forces an individual toward necessary self-awareness and change. When you invest your energy wisely, into those who are ready, you see tangible fruit and growth. When you pour into resistant soil, you witness only waste. Your energy, time, and resources are finite and precious. Not everyone deserves your intervention, and understanding this reality is not cruelty, it is the highest form of wisdom. Ask yourself today, who am I protecting from their necessary fall? Who am I rescuing that needs to learn to stand? When you identify that person, summon the courage to withdraw your sustaining force, not with anger, but with the clear-eyed understanding that sometimes, the most loving act is allowing someone to experience the full, unmitigated lesson life has placed before them. You can illuminate the path, but you cannot walk it for them.